Sold millions of records, even though they rarely got radio support. Singer-guitarist James Hetfield grants very few interviews. And yet, Metallica have pulled down 2 Grammys, and their fan base, you got it, it just keeps getting bigger. Now, they had some pretty heavy, dicey record company conflicts, and so for the past 5 years, they didn't record an album. But now they've got a new one. It's called Load, one of the most hotly anticipated albums to be released this year. And knowing that Metallica are all hockey fans, and now that we're down to the Stanley Cup Finals, KCC decided to take them where else? The Hockey Hall of Fame.
Where do I take this pain of mine? I run, but it stays right by my side. So tell me open, pour me out. There's things inside that scream and shout, and the pain still hates me. So hold me until you beat it once, and now it stays. Now it stays. So tell me open, beware. There's things inside without a care, and the dirt still stains me.
Sports and rock and roll do have a tie-in, don't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Aggression, you know.
A lot of traveling, a lot of teamwork.
Grips you so bad. It stains you so bad. It hurts you so bad.
The 5-year waiting period to get some new material out to all our friends out there is just how it had to be. The Black Album put us on the road for about 2 years, and then we needed to take a little time off, then we did the live thing.
In the 5 years or so between the studio albums, a lot's going on, you know, from Kurt Cobain's death all the way through, you know, the bad shock.
Not even just Kurt Cobain's death, but Kurt Cobain's, I mean, when we made the Black Album, nobody knew who Kurt Cobain was. Nevermind wasn't out. Do you know what I mean? When we put the Black Album out. So think about that for a second. That's pretty amazing.
So what were you thinking when you're on the sidelines and watching the river of rock and roll flow by while you're still taking it on your record label?
It's really interesting because it's come and gone. I mean, a lot of people have said, yeah, a lot of people have said this, but you know, it's true. When Kurt Cobain killed himself, he effectively put a cap on that whole grunge movement.
Part of the reason that we're probably still around is that we kind of just tend to hover in our own little space. People keep talking, oh, the death of heavy metal, and are you going to help revive it? It's like all these questions, like we're not going to do anything. We just are Metallica, and we do our own thing, and we hover in our own little world.
Since day one, we didn't want to be called thrash metal. We didn't want to be called something. You know, we wanted to be called Metallica and Metallica music. So since day one, we've like shed all the traditional, you know, labels or the traditional road you're supposed to travel. So I think we're still doing that.
We continued to paint our way out of the corner that a lot of the bands that started at the same time got stuck in. You only confine yourself, you know. I mean, if we let ourselves be confined, and just because metal is in our name or whatever, that's that would be up to us. So we don't do that. We continue to go farther and farther. With a new record, you'll see that there's more experimentation and more flavors and more just, you know, growing up, man.
So tell me why you've chosen me. Don't want your grip, don't want your greed. Don't want it.
It occurred to me that there's almost an irony with you headlining Lollapalooza, in the sense that the original wave of the metal bands that came out of the late 70s, early 80s were to some degree inspired by punk, and Lollapalooza, through punk and alternative, has ended up being, and you've almost brought it full circle.
The fact that we're playing it is nothing to us. I think some people are kind of freaked out about it, but I think in a few months after it's done, they're just going to think, why were we worried? I mean, it's just a festival of music, you know.
They build stuff up in their heads too much. They have too much time to think about all that stuff. We would be going out to headline a tour or do our own thing in the summer in the States anyway. You know, it's a really good opportunity. They ask us to play the show. Go out and do it, you know. I mean, it's not like we're thinking about the alternative, non-alternative, or anything like that. It's what we're good at. So
when we sat down and talked about it, and maybe you've already said this stuff, but about how Metallica in some way has always been kind of outsiders and have always gone against a lot of the mainstream stuff, and certainly in the 80s were definitely an alternative to a lot of the mainstream stuff, and realizing that our first couple of records were on an independent labels and stuff like that. Once you start adding some of that stuff up, I don't think it's so odd. I think people, they just go, oh, Metallica, they go Enter Sandman, or whatever, but I think overall, if you look at Metallica's career, I don't think it's so odd. And they really wanted to throw it for a curve, and they certainly have.
Tuk, that experience. How was that? Give us your take on that.
Quite an experience. I mean, we wouldn't have passed it up for the world. I think we're always looking to go new places and check stuff out, the Metallica way. And, it was a very eye-opening experience, to see how certain people live, on it's almost a different planet up there, We
were there for maybe 30 hours or something like that, but just to the way we had to get up there, this plane to this little sputtery plane, and then you finally get down there and you just see that everything is so different, and how, fortunate we are, and the things that we get to do, all of us here, and that kind of thing, and how they have to, their work that they have to do in seasonal work and these kind of things, and hardship and whatever, all that stuff. Yeah, like James says, the eye-opening thing, the learning experience of that, that's what I took away.
Certainly can't live in the past musically also. I mean, there are people who attach themselves to a certain era in your career, and they sentimentalize it, and they like it so much that they really can't pull themselves away from that era. And I'm guilty of it. Everyone does it. I do it myself. And you really can't you can't consider those people when you're trying to make new songs, new music, new product. I mean, you definitely have to move forward.
I'm guilty of living in the musical future. I've got the Oasis record that comes out in 1998 already up here. It's amazing.